Back in the day, I used to teach a blowjob class, and we were here collectively, women be like, I hate giving head. I only give it to my partner because I just want him to come. They didn't find any pleasure in it for themselves. And we were like, oh my God, that can't be. Like, we have got to change that narrative. So women would hit me up and was like, I'd like to come to the class, but can I wear like sunglasses? I was like, girl, come with your hair pulled back. We about to do some work. Okay, we're trying to empower you to feel the control, but also find pleasure in this. And I am so proud of the work that we did in that workshop. And by the end of the time we were teaching it, I had 3 generations of women in a class.
I know, that's right.
I had a grandma, a mom, and a daughter in a class. I didn't reach some people, you know? And that's what it should be about, is like normalizing just learning, right? Because sex education, a lot of people feel like it stops. If you had it in school, that might have been the last time people actually had 100%. Some formal sex education, right? So I'm like, we need adult sex education classes so that people know how to do different things and feel comfortable and what's consensual and that you have a voice.
So girls, before we dive in, I need your help. We are on a mission to get the Relationship Restored channel to 100,000 subscribers. And the best part is it's completely free for you, but it means the world to us. So if you're watching and loving the episodes, hit that subscribe button. Oh, and one more thing, I can't forget to mention our Relationship Restored online community. Inside, you'll find dedicated chat rooms, daily content, exclusive events, and retreats, all designed to help you build the best relationship with others and, most importantly, with yourself. It's truly a place for the girls. So join today at relationshiprestored.com/community.
Hey girls, it's Bree.
It's Cece.
And you're tuned into For the Girls. Today, y'all, we have a treat for you, okay? We have a sex and couples therapist, and we were having some very interesting conversations behind the scenes, so we are ready to bring it to the table. Introducing my girl, Jenifer Smith. Hey girl, hey.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to get into our discussion.
Yeah, you know, so we really want to jump into porn because we were... we were having very interesting conversations, but before we get into the porn subject, please share with us what in the world made you wake up one day and decide I'm going to become a sex therapist.
Yeah, well, I wish it was that easy, but I definitely didn't wake up. It definitely was not something I planned. But my background is really in communications. I used to be in PR. And when I was in college, you had to do a rotation in TV, radio, like something other than what your specialty was. So I got into radio, and the show that I was on was a sex talk radio show.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, okay. But I was like a baby. I was like 19 when I got on the show, and there was like a seasoned host already there, and he really just helped me learn that if you're going to be on this type of show, you need to be researching. You need to know exactly what you're talking about. Even if you got to go home and practice some things before you come on here to give advice to people, you do that. And so I did for 4 years, and I just completely fell in love with the content of talking about sex, love, and relationships. And people on campus would find me and be like, so me and my boyfriend are having trouble. Can you help us? And I was like, guys, I'm the same age as you. I don't know. But I just felt so honored that people trusted me, and that kind of stuck with me. So after college, I got an opportunity to write a sex advice column for a magazine.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, I love this so much. This is a whole different genre of helping people. And then I was like, okay, so this might not be a hobby anymore. I might really want to do something with it. So that's when I decided to be a therapist. But I really wanted to be a sex therapist because when I was coming up, I had great sex education background, and it was from people of color that were actually educating me about sex education.
That's rare.
It is very
You're an
rare.
outlier.
I felt very fortunate for the experience I had with sex education. And so I wanted to be able to do that in my own community. I wanted people to have a safe space that looked like us, right? And be really informed, because we're at the top for all the numbers for HIV, for AIDS, for gonorrhea, chlamydia. Like, I wanted to be able to provide a space where people could have these talks and dialogues and feel okay about it, right? Not feel shamed about it. And really, when I was researching sex therapists, I only found white women. There were no women of color. And so I was like, well, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna create my own lane. So I decided to go to college, for my graduate degree, and I have 2 masters in marriage and family therapy and mental health. And then I went on to get my sex therapy certification.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thank you for your service, because let me tell you, this is something that I think that a lot of women need and are bashful to talk about.
Yeah.
Sex is very like taboo. It's very uncomfortable. It's such an intimate thing. And I think because a lot of people are not educated enough, we just decide, you know what, we're just not even gonna do it. We're not gonna talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna shy away from it. So, I mean, we were having fantastic conversations off camera, and I'm like, we have so many questions.
And that makes me feel so excited because, you know, because even though we just met, you felt really comfortable to just start asking questions and talking. And is essentially what I try to help people normalize about therapy. It's just a therapeutic conversation.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And you get so much more when you're just open and you're just ready to talk and ask questions. So I'm really excited that, you know, therapy is becoming more normal for people and talking about sex. Like, even though it's 2025, people still have a lot of hangups about it.
Absolutely. I mean, girl, I'm married and I still find myself being bashful with my husband. And this is my husband. It's like, he should be the one person I should be able to do all the nasty things to. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff you wouldn't even want to talk about on camera. But, you know, I still find myself feeling like I'm not educated enough about my body. Like, what do I like? How do I like it? Like, what makes me feel good? What turns me on? What, how do I make him feel seen, loved, connected to, you know what I'm saying? All of the things. And, you know, we've kind of were talking about this a little bit earlier. And like, I found myself at one point kind of like going to porn to get sex education.
Yeah.
But girl, when I went to porn to get some sex education, I found something. I was like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
And it actually kind of like put me off a little bit. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll never figure it out. You know what I'm saying? And so I would love to know, like, what is the right way that we should go about getting educated about sex, getting educated about our own bodies, getting educated about how to pleasure ourselves, pleasure our man? Because what I saw on porn, and you know, we talked about it, I think it's the porn that I consumed was just like, wild.
It was advanced.
It was very advanced. And I was like, I don't know what's happening here. This is insane. There were people in cages. And anyway, and so how like, where do we start?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I do think that with porn specifically, it is really, there are levels to porn. There are things that for people to watch when they are beginners with just coming into watching it and just really exploring. And then there are advanced levels to it where you start looking around at the categories and you're like, oh, this might be a little bit outside of my comfortability right now. You know, but, and I think you even reference watching the trailers, I think helps people. I love that they're like little movie clips now. And you can just take a look and you're like, nope, this is not one. I'm going to move on. You know, I think you have to be able to explore in a way that feels safe. And if you're with a partner, then you want to talk about it with your partner too, of like, hey, I'm thinking about exploring some different categories or watching some different type of porn. Is it something you'd want to do together? Or are you comfortable with me navigating it on my own and like talking to you about it later? Or if there's something I saw that I would want us to try, are you okay if I bring that back? Like having a healthy dialogue around it, I think is always really good for couples. And then when you're single, it's good to explore different things, because when you are ready to bring a partner back in the bedroom, then you already are aware of something that you like or something you want to try or something you've learned that you want to try out. You know, like I think it's a fun time to explore no matter if you're partnered or unpartnered.
I never thought about talking to my partner about porn ever. I don't think I've ever talked to Dre
Really?
about...
My husband brought it up.
Really?
Yeah, yes. My husband definitely brought it to me like, you know, would you be open to looking at porn together?
Yeah.
And because I feel like I had a very bad like couple of interactions with porn, I was like, this shit, like what I saw, like I'm not into. And also, if I'm being honest, I felt like what I did see too, it was like unrealistic expectations on me about how sex should be. Yeah. So I was very like, no, I don't want to watch porn with you. I don't like, I shun it. And I don't necessarily think that was, I mean, that's just how I felt at the moment. I don't know if it was bad or good. But
I think that was a normal reaction. A lot of women feel that way.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, talking to women, I hear a lot of women who don't have a positive relationship with sex, don't have a positive outlook on sex. It's very like, it's almost like they feel like it's a chore. It's something that they have to do it like for the man, and they don't actually get, you know, any pleasure on their end.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I don't want my relationship with my husband to just be about like, I want to make sure that he comes and he's pleasured. I do want it to be a two-way street.
Yeah.
But you know, I still feel like I need more education about myself and like, and also just being able to be comfortable. My husband provides a great environment where our sex life is I feel very comfortable with him and being able to express to him like what I do and what I don't like. It's definitely grown because, you know, early on in our relationship, I was very like, I don't know. I feel like I just did what I thought I knew to do. And it's like, as long as he comes, like, that's great. Like, I did my job, you know, but I know that there's just so much more to it.
Yeah, for sure. No, for sure. And I think that your reaction is pretty normal of how a lot of women feel because they're like, oh, you want to watch porn so you could fuck me like how those girls are getting fucked in the video. And you're like, that feels degrading to me or that doesn't make me feel like I'm your wife. And I actually look at it from the opposite lens that was great that he actually came and talked to you about it. And now he wanted to involve you in it. Mm-hmm. You know, like I think that's beautiful when men want to bring conversation and really have and want to integrate you into their sexual experience, right? Whether it's like maybe they watch it when they're masturbating, but they're like, yeah, now I want to involve you in it. And I think that there says something about that connectivity between the two of you, right? So yeah, I like when people offer that as an experience, but I do think that a lot of women initially think he wants to degrade me. He wants to embarrass me. He wants to hurt me, right? Mm-hmm. Because of how I see it on the video. But I think that in porn, there's so much context that people don't really understand or see that everything that's happening, well, most of the things that are happening are consensual on the in porn. And so like, it's not, and you can alter anything that you can adjust. Whatever they're doing in the video, what you're doing with your partners, you can do differently, right? You can do it to the point that you're like, we have a safety word. We have a place where we're just like, we like this and this, but not this, right? Like you have to find and make what works for you. Mm-hmm, but I'm curious, Brie, for you, why you never felt like you could talk to Dre about it?
So one, I don't really consume it. I did in the past. I think that when I was single, I obviously porn was my only way of like get myself in the mood, or if I'm like, ooh, I know it's been a while, let me knock knock, are you still in there? And I would consume it. But as I said before we started filming, like I have like an empathetic issue where like when I am experiencing something, I tie my own feelings and emotions to the point where I like spiral talk into like, I shouldn't be doing this, right? So I'll see a scene and immediately I'm like, oh my God, like why are they doing this to her? Or like that can't be comfortable, or like really would you want two men doing that to you at the same time? And then I start to think about like, what was her childhood like? And then I'll think into like, I remember how I felt when I was at a strip club and being like, this is fun. And then in the next instance, I'm like, why does this girl have to do this for money? Like what does her life look like outside of this? Is she choosing this, or does she have to do this? Or, you know, and so I think too deeply into it. And so once I became married, especially because we were waiting for marriage, I was like, there was a part of me that thought that God would look at porn and pornography as like, you know, you shouldn't do this. And there's things in the Bible and stuff that people can say that would allude to the fact that like, if you're married, like you do these things with your person. And if you do things outside of that, that's not good. Right. So I don't know. I didn't need it. I think because I waited for marriage and I went so long without sex that by the time I got married, the sex that we were having, that was enough for me.
Yeah,
I'm like,
for sure.
I'm like, whoa, it was a transition. So I'm like, it wasn't like I lacked anything. So it just was never a conversation that I had with Dre. I know that I could. And be like, hey, do you watch porn? Because I'm like, I actually don't know if he does or whatnot. But I did see a study. It was actually on the Diaries of Zio. It's our favorite podcast right now.
Our favorite podcast.
There was a study that said if you as a man are not ejaculating every 2 to 4 days, that the chances of you having offspring goes down
like every month substantially. And I was like, I immediately was like, Dre, when we were waiting for marriage, were you masturbating? And that was the first time that I thought to myself, like, has my husband ever watched porn? And I know he's watched, we all watch porn, right? But that was the first time it crossed my mind. And so I would say that's why it never had crossed my mind. But I think too, everyone's sexual experience with their partner is very different.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that porn could be a tool for couples where maybe one person is more experienced than the other, or where one person wants to have more sex than the other. Me and Dre were very lucky, and like we had a year after getting married where we were figuring out what worked for us in terms of time, right? Like we already knew what we liked and what we didn't like. That was one of my very first, like I had 3 things that I had said, you have to be okay with these things. I was like, 1, I'm adopting. Like, are you okay with adopting? 2, I want a lot of babies. Are you okay with a lot of babies? 3, I don't do butt stuff. Are you?
I love the variety there.
I was like, so just to be clear, you're okay being married to me if I never want anything in my butt? And he was like, yeah, I don't want butt stuff either. I was like, great. And then from there, when we were waiting for marriage, we talked about sex. So then by the time we got married, it wasn't a surprise, because the other thing is so many people came to us and was like, why are you gonna marry him before having sex? Like, what if you guys go to have sex and it's just trash? What if there's no chemistry? What if, you don't like the size or the shape or the whatever? I was like, first of all, I'm not a dummy. I've seen it. I know what I'm working with.
I looked at the merchandise.
The package was inspected. I just haven't rode the toy yet. Okay. So I was like, that's not a worry for me. But then also it's like in the way that you cuddle, in the way that you kiss, in the way that you hold hands.
You can feel that chemistry.
Yeah, I'm like, we have chemistry. I don't need to have sex with him to know that I have chemistry. But more than any of that, we have intimacy. And intimacy, when created through trust, through foundation, through communication, then you add sex on top of it. It only gets better. Yeah. So I wasn't concerned about that. But I would love to hear your thoughts on how porn in a marriage can be a tool and a hindrance.
Ooh, yeah.
I think it can be a tool of a way to connect, right? It's like, okay, we've been having sex in this way or these ways for a long time. We're ready to take it up a notch. Like, so let's watch some things and explore. Like maybe people usually watch it for positions, for technique on different things, whether it's oral, anal, even just other ways that they want, even variety of places. I talked to a lot of people that like still have not really had sex outside of
the bedroom.
And so they're just like looking for creativity, you know? And so they're watching it for those purposes. Or just even role playing. It's like, what's some storylines that we could use? You know, like people use it for an educational way within a marriage to just add some spice, some variety, right? But I think that it can become a hindrance when people go down into a category that maybe speaks to one person over the other, and then you're like, we're not doing that. And the other person's like, well, I kind of like it. And then you start judging them based off of what they chose.
Right.
And it's like, again, let's keep having an open dialogue about it, because everything can be a compromise. We can like this, but we don't have to do all of that. I'm willing to do X, Y, Z, and you can meet me in the middle. Right? Yeah. Like it's a conversation. And I think some of the other hindrance comes, which I've seen a lot for people that watch porn in excess, is that, and most of the time it is men, is that they are really attached to the women that they've been watching.
Yes.
And then when they involve their partner, the wife or the other partner feels like, oh, I'm second in this situation because you have a visual relationship with her and I'm just here like as the physical body. So that can become a hindrance.
Absolutely. I love that you said that, because if I'm being honest, that was one of my fears about watching porn with my husband, is that, he may consume it more than I do. So he has this ideology of how it should be. And it's like, if I can't perform to the level that she's performing at, then I feel less than. I feel shame. It doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't make me feel confident. It doesn't make me feel sexy.
Right.
So that was also another reason why I was like, no, I don't want to do this. Like, we will navigate this on our own. I don't want to bring a third party into this,
Yeah. That's very much how people feel, though.
I just had a female friend publicly on social media let everybody know that she has been delivered from her porn masturbation addiction.
Wow.
And I was like,
Okay.
So my question for you is, how do you know if you are consuming porn or third-party ways of masturbation in a healthy way versus knowing that you have crossed that line and you are actually now in a space of like addiction and it can be harmful to either your current or future relationships?
Yeah, porn addiction is a very big thing. I have had multiple clients that have had porn addiction. Porn addiction looks like it is the disruption of life. You are watching it to the point that it is now disrupting your day-to-day life. You're watching it at work. You might be missing work to masturbate or to watch. Wow. You may be, consuming it in spaces that are not private, that can cause hindrance to different areas of your life. Mainly at work is what I've seen, or people watch it while they're about to go pick up their kids, or or they're watching it 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a day. Like I've had clients that have consumed it for like 8 hours at a time, or it's a disruption of life when you're watching it in excess like that. In a healthy way is you're able to watch it and put it down in a comfortable space, right? Where you're watching it to, again, either be educated or to learn technique, or you're watching it to actually masturbate, and then you're done, right? You turn it off and you get back to whatever you're doing, right? You're moving on. But yeah, so it's definitely pretty noticeable when it's a hindrance. Like from the minute a client comes to me and they start talking about it, I'm like, yep, I know what this is going, and it's hard because there's a lot of steps that have to be put in place in order for people to start reducing it. It's not obtainable to just like go from full on addiction to cold turkey. Like we're just stopping. Like it has to be a progression of dialing it back. And I think that is something I've seen a lot of partners struggle with, is when their partner is addicted to watching porn or even masturbating and they just expect them to stop. And I'm like, that's just not realistic. Yeah. It's a process, and you have to, if you're willing to be here, you're going to have to go through the process with us to get it to a manageable level.
So when you're working with your clients, do you feel like you work more with couples or with women or with men?
Well, I specialize in working with couples.
Okay.
I do specialize in working with couples because it's so interesting when we were talking about like how much people don't like to talk about sex. I couldn't understand when in my master's program how many clinicians didn't want to talk about sex.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm sorry. We are in a couples therapy program.
And we're not talking about sex?
You don't want to talk about sex? How's that going to work,
Yeah.
Seriously.
And so that also was one of the reasons, was like, well, I might as well become a sex therapist, and then y'all could all refer to me. I'll just take all those checks, thank you.
Yeah.
Because so many people didn't feel comfortable talking about it. So I specialized in working with couples for that reason, but also I wanted to be able to give Black couples, a sex therapist that they could relate to. So I would say it ebbs and flows. So like I go periods of time where I have a lot of couples, and then I have a lot of times that it's mixed. I never have a lot of singles. It's usually a lot of couples, and then I'll have some singles. But it's interesting because most of the time the men are the ones that sought me out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not shocked at that at all. I think that, it's really difficult for women to discuss sex, to discuss their dissatisfaction around sex. And, men, I think naturally are more hypersexual than women sometimes. Yeah. And of course that's, there are women who are very hypersexual as well, but men want sex more than women. I think you could probably argue that fact. But, I do find that it's probably hard for women to feel comfortable broaching the topic around sex. And, I applaud you, because I think that this is a very important topic that should be discussed, especially with couples. Yeah. Because if we look at like divorce rates, which are just have skyrocketed. Yeah. I mean, there's really two major things that causes divorces, and it's sex and finances. Yep. Lack of sex and mismanagement of finances, right?
100%.
And so I think it would be remiss of us not to discuss sex and the importance of sex. It's not just like making sure that you guys are, getting off every few days, but it's like the intimacy around sex, like understanding what you really love about your partner and how to fulfill their desires.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about, you know, some of your experience with women about their satisfaction with sex? Do you find that women are being satisfied when they're with their partners? Are they having hormonal imbalances that are causing like low libido? Like I know in my instance, when I was pregnant and for maybe like a year and some change after I had my daughter, my libido dropped, girl. It like my sex drive was almost non-existent. Yeah. And I knew that this was not sustainable. You know, I just had a baby. I was also working a very like senior level consulting job. And so I had high stress. I had a new marriage, a new baby. My body didn't look how it looks now. It was very foreign to me, everything. And I was just like, sex was the last thing that was on my mind. Yeah. And I hear those stories with a lot of other women too.
For sure.
And not just new moms, but even women who have been in the relationship for many years.
Yeah.
So what has your experience been with, you know, women's satisfaction with their partners?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like in the last 5 years, more women have said they just don't want to have sex. They don't desire it. A lot of it, I would say like the few reasons that I hear the most are a lot of women are on medication and they're on antidepressants. Antidepressants definitely lower your libido. And the women are like, I'm not willing to trade my mood for sex. So I don't know what he need to do, but I'm happy being on my antidepressant if that means I have no libido. And so that is a real struggle in our couple sessions because I'm like, well, I understand that, but we're going to have to work to get your libido up. But a lot of women are such in a great space that they're like, I don't really miss sex. I don't really want to have it. So they just are like, they're more open to having other conversations about either an open marriage or an open marriage, or willing to have their partners hire a sex worker, you know, maybe once or twice a month because they just are not wanting to have sex. My other reason is women that are postpartum or going through a postpartum depression. That is a big part of why their libido is so low and not wanting to engage. And then yes, the stress of a new baby, and then even in the first year, like sex is just lower on the priority scale. And so they just don't circle back. And they're just like, I'm happy with all the other areas, and sex wasn't something that even maybe they really loved before. So now it's like, I really don't need it. I haven't had it in this long. So, I mean, those are the two reasons I usually hear the most. And I do think that through the pandemic, a lot of people got on antidepressants. And so I think that's why I'm hearing it a bit more, or the rates are higher now. And then women are obviously going through menopause and perimenopause, and that impacts your libido as well. And a lot of women definitely don't want to have sex when they're going through menopause. They're like, I'm having a hot flash. I could barely keep my clothes. I don't want you on me. I can barely keep my clothes on. That is because I do like to work with clients of all age ranges. And I see a lot of couples of all age ranges, and those are some of the consistencies I hear.
Oh man, I mean, I would love to ask, because you mentioned stress and you know, just daily life, right? It's a lot on people's plates. So when a couple comes to you and they're like, you know, we want to have sex, we are both just stressed out, we're lacking the time, we don't really feel or see a path forward that involves like consistent sex, but we both want it. But life is happening. What are some solutions that you provide to help them?
They have to make the time. They have to prioritize it. And so we will go through and talk about what their schedules look like, like some of their day-to-day tasks or their priorities. And I'm helping kind of clear it out and help them organize of like, okay, guys, like you want this, how much time are you making for it? Because you're making time to go to the gym every day. But what if you didn't go to the gym and you have some cardio with your partner? Right? Like, we can make that happen, you know? And so it's about really how are you prioritizing and making time for it, you know? Like for a lot of my couples who have kids, they're like, you know, it's hard to get a babysitter, or we live here and our families are not, so we don't have babysitters, you know, like that are family built in. And I'm like, so take PTO day while the kids are at school and y'all got the whole day to spend together.
Exactly.
You know, like you have to find ways to make it work. And so I will give them homework assignments too, to be intimate, you know, like one of my biggest things with people is how much time they spend on their phones while they're at home with their spouse.
Right.
And I'm like, how much time are you actually spending just face to face talking without your phones?
Right.
Leave them in another room, or y'all have a actual bedtime wind down together, right? Where phones are put away, electronics put away, y'all just talking. You're playing a game. You're actually talking about your intimacy, or you're trying some different things out that maybe I'm giving for homework, right? Just spending some time cuddling, touching each other, actually exploring, like, so, you know, like I know 5 years ago you really used to love blowjobs, but it doesn't seem like you like them anymore now. So like, what is it that you do like? What turns you on? How can I stimulate you? You know, like having those discussions really help open up that conversation so that you're more excited about actually building this intimacy together. Yeah. But really, I find it's the prioritizing, because we can all be stressed and we're all doing different things to manage that stress. But how much time are you actually putting it in your schedule to have intimacy with your partner?
Yeah.
You know, that's really important. I think also for women, you know, how we just talked about women are just not even desiring sex.
Yeah.
You know, one thing for women too is like we take a little bit longer to warm up to wanting to have sex. I think, you know, you have to like talk to us nice, maybe rub our back a little bit. You know, it takes us a little bit longer. Like men, they're like, look at your titties and be like, I'm ready. Yeah. You know, and it's like for us, it takes a little bit longer. So I think it's like, to your point, it's like, schedule in some time to actually just build intimacy in a way that maybe leads into you being like, you know what, I forgot that we liked that. Like, would you want to explore that tonight?
And those are things, like, you have to communicate with your partner, though, about what would help you get aroused, right? So I was working with a couple, and the wife was like, I spend too much time cleaning our house. Like, it's overwhelming.
Right.
We just have, you know, there's just too much going on. I spend too much. He was like, girl, if I hire somebody to come in here and clean and that means we have more sex, I will call them tomorrow.
Listen,
like, he was like, if that's all it takes,
have you been talking to my husband?
He was like, that's it. And she, you know, or like, you know, another family or another couple I was working with, she was like, I'm just tired of cooking. And he was like, we could get a meal service. I guess. Yeah. They're like, we can go out to eat. I don't care. We can afford it. We can go out to eat if that means it's going to create more space for you to want to have intimacy. But if you don't communicate that, right, of like what it does for me, right, like, and what used to work for me, again, 5-10 years ago, is something different now, right? And like for me personally, like when I was dating somebody, and I remember he used to just come over and do the dishes. Like he'd come in, give me a hug, kiss, and then we'll go in and do the dishes. And I was like, I am ready to rip my clothes off. Okay, like you want to come here and do some work? What are you talking? Turn it to me. Right. I'm like, I did it. Acts of service was not one of my, was not something that used to do it for me. But now I'm like, you want to come in here and help?
Listen,
I will do whatever you would like.
I love that you said that, because I mean, that was definitely one of the things for me that got my husband and I to a point now that we are so freaking connected, and like he's actually getting the quantity and quality of sex that he desires. It's because I was overwhelmed and I was overstimulated. I had this crazy job that had me working like 9 to 12 hour days. I had a young daughter under the age of 2. I had my mother that was always around, and just like I had to like kind of manage her and everything.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole nother thing.
That's a whole nother thing. You know what I'm saying? I had to like, I was trying to work out and get my body right. It was just too much. Keep the house clean, like worried about everything and everyone. And so we had a real conversation with ourselves, and he was like, at the end of the day, the number one stressor for me at that time was my job. So my husband, he had this mantra. He was like, fuck that job. He's like, listen, I got us. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it is my duty as the provider to make sure that you are happy and healthy. And if you're not happy, then get rid of that job. Yeah. And you know, we had some stipulations around me quitting too. And it's like, for him, his biggest priority was that I was happy and that he had a happy wife around the house.
Yeah.
He didn't want to come home from like having to fight the world outside to like make the money and like to like a wife that
coming home to fight too. Yeah.
You know, to
no.
fight too. So like he wanted a happy and peaceful house. He did want more frequent sex and the quality of sex to improve.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, girl, once I quit that job and I was just able to focus on myself, my daughter, and him, it's like our whole world changed. My whole aura changed. I'm a totally different me.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so it was just like, if to like the girls out there, like if you can swing it, find something to take off of your plate, and I can guarantee you your love life with your partner, you will see it like drastically spike.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's a really great point because essentially as women, we are more emotionally driven.
Yes.
So when we are emotionally stimulated, we are normally a lot easier to be physically stimulated.
Absolutely.
And so that goes back to like our mindset. Like if we're not in a good place, it's very hard to do all the things and like to also, you know, be that for you. And so I want to circle back to something that you said when you were mentioning that women were so in a space of like, I'd rather choose my mood and be on these, you know, antidepressants, even knowing that that means sex is off the table for us.
Yeah.
So much so that I'm willing to hire a sex worker or be in an open relationship.
Yeah.
What do you think happens in a relationship for a woman to get to that point? Like, I understand the antidepressants, right? It's a mood thing. But do you think that emotional intimacy has anything to do with that lack of wanting the physical intimacy? Or like, what is the common thing that gets someone to a point where they would be willing to have their husband have sex with someone else?
Well, I think a lot of times it's women were in a lot of those particular situations, because I know their story, right? A lot of that time, women in those situations, those women didn't ever have a good relationship with sex. So they were really fine just kind of dismissing it because it was like, I never really had a healthy relationship with sex anyway, or I never really got pleasure out of it anyway, because that's not what they were taught, or they were even encouraged to, that sex should be pleasurable for you too. It shouldn't just be for the man's pleasure.
Right.
And a lot of women have that conditioning of that, like, my job is to please my partner.
Yes.
And if he comes, great. If I don't, it's okay. And like, it should be pleasurable for both people. But for those particular women, it was like, well, I never had a great relationship with it anyway, so I'm okay. And all my other needs are being met, and that's fine with me. So I'm fine. If he needs to get his off, great. That's less work for me to do.
Wow.
How can women explore more of what makes them feel good? What brings them pleasure? How can we get more pleasure out of sex? Like, what should we be doing? What questions should we be answering? What resources should we be looking into?
Yeah.
Like, why? Like, I refuse to just accept that women are just like, like, I'm good. Like, I just don't think that that's okay.
Yeah.
And also, it's just not going to be okay for your relationship. Listen, one thing that I knew coming out of that space of not wanting to have sex, was like, I need to figure this out, because if I don't have sex with my man, he's going to have sex with somebody else, and that is going to break us.
Yeah,
and that's unacceptable to me.
Right.
Like, I'm in a monogamous relationship. I am a very jealous person, so
you're like, that's not going down here.
So we not having nothing open around here.
Close it.
Okay, very close. But I also knew that it was my duty.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, as his wife, he has duties and I have duties as well.
Yeah.
And part of my duty as a wife is to make sure that we are connected, that we are good, that he's getting what he needs. So when I hear women just being like, meh, like, I'm like, no, girl, no.
That's how I feel too in sessions, you know, but I have to meet the client where they're at, you know, but there are lots of things. There's a lot of things. So like, again, you know, I think it's always great for women to have great medical providers, because some of this is not just mental and emotional. Sometimes it is physical, or it is medical, right? And so I always encourage women to have a solid PCP and gynecologist, right? Because you need to get your estrogen levels tested, your testosterone levels tested, you know, like, you can find find out if you're going through menopause or perimenopause, or, you know, like you're adjusting your meds. And I'm not saying that people should just get off of them to increase their libido, but you're looking at maybe other supplements that could help, or changing your diet or exercising. Like you have to find ways, if you're willing, to get your libido back up so that you at least feel the desire, right? The desire is a big part. Second part is you have to be willing to have those conversations with yourself of like, what is it that I actually want to explore? What do I want to feel? How do I want to feel? What type of pleasure would I want to explore with my partner, you know? Or is it something I just need to start with myself? Do I feel like I even feel connected to my body? Do I feel connected to my pussy, right? Like that is a big thing. People are like, I don't even look at it. I don't want to touch it. I'm like, all right, well, we got to start there.
Yeah, right.
You got to get connected with your body. So many people feel disconnected because of, then it still feels very transactional, because it's like women feel like a lot of times they were given a vagina or vulva because it's to have a baby. It's to be a pleasure point for my partner.
Yes.
Ain't got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
That's how a lot of women look at, and it causes me to go through periods and menopause. Hell no. I don't want any parts of her at all. Right? Like, so you have to be willing to get connected with your body and really feel that desire about yourself. And I don't think that a lot of women find themselves sexy. They don't feel attractive. And so like those are things you have to work on internally. Now you can work on lots of things like that with a therapist, sex therapist in general, you know, or like there are sex coaches out here, you know, and there's a lot of different types of workshops and education classes where they actually do pleasure mapping, where pleasure mapping, it essentially takes you from your head all the way down to your toes of like, where do you find pleasure on your body, and what kind of sensations do you enjoy, and what doesn't feel good for you, right? Like what type of reactions do you have? It really helps map out what you really like and feel good on your own body, and where you would want somebody to consensually touch you, and what are your hard no's.
I think more people would find a lot of use out of like going to workshops, but I think that people are scared.
Oh, they really are. So for back in the day, I used to teach a blowjob class, and I had a business partner. We had created our own curriculum for our BJ class, and so many women we were working with, because she's a sex educator, I'm a sex therapist, and we were here collectively, women be like, I hate giving head. I only give it to my partner because I just want him to come. They didn't find any pleasure in it for themselves. And we were like, oh my God, that can't be. Like, we have got to change that narrative, right? So women would hit me up and was like, I'd like to come to the class, but can I wear like sunglasses? I'm like,
not sunglasses.
I
need to be incognito.
Yeah, right. Like, I was like, we cannot be having this much shame around it.
Also, mama, we still know who you are. With your sunglasses on.
They just didn't want other people to know who they were, or to know that they was sucking dick. I was just like, what? I was like, girl, come with your hair pulled back. We about to do some work. Okay? I don't have time for y'all being here trying to hide. Like, we're trying to normalize and have a great... We're trying to empower you to feel the control, but also find pleasure in this, you know? And I am so proud of the work that we did in that workshop. And we taught it for like 5 years. And by the end of the time we were teaching it, I had 3 generations of women in a class.
I know, that's right.
I had a grandma, a mom, and a daughter in a class. I said,
all second
we did some things, okay? We didn't reach some people, you know? And like, that's what it should be about, is like normalizing just learning, right? Because sex education, a lot of people feel like it stops. If you had it in school, that might have been the last time people actually had 100%. Some formal sex education, right? So I'm like, we need adult sex education classes so that people know how to do different things and feel comfortable, and what's consensual, and that you have a voice, you know? And there were so many horrifying stories that came out of that workshop, because so many people had been forced to give it before. They had been shamed about it compared to other people, you know? And so like, that's why women didn't want to do it. But the class was 2 hours. The first hour we went over consent, anatomy, hygiene, you know, and the second hour we spent fully on technique. And we wanted to teach people different things that worked for them, that made them feel comfortable, and how to give a hand job, you know, like using lube when you give a blowjob. We wanted women to really feel like they had all the tools to make it work for them and feel empowered, you know. And I'm still excited to hear like women write to me to this day and it's like, I still use all those techniques and now I'm married and my husband's very happy. And I'm like, yes, girl, like I love it.
I mean, I'm open to some new techniques if you have some. Listen,
I got you.
I'm very open-minded to all these things. I'm like, how can I do and be better? Teach me, girl.
Yes. I mean, but again, like it's just empowering. I loved having women like bring their girlfriends, right? And was like, we talk about this in our group chat all the time, but nobody wanted to come to the class. So I just bought us all tickets and told them we're going out, you know? But unfortunately, I had some husbands that also bought their wives tickets. And I was like, well, how do we now have this conversation?
That's a little different.
I did have husbands reach out to me first to ask, like, I'd like to buy this for my wife and her girlfriends. How do I approach this? You know? And I was like, okay, this is very nice of you to think about this. And good way to reach out and talk to me. So I would say like, you know, just say like you're encouraging them to have a fun girls' day, right? Yeah. That you heard about this class, you thought they would have fun, you know, just do it like that. And so plenty of husbands did. And I was just very excited that men felt comfortable enough to reach out to say like, I would like to do this for my wife, her girlfriends, and all the husbands are applauding him also, right?
Yeah.
Like thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Good job. I got your back next time.
Exactly.
So
I got your back next time.
I
got January.
Yeah. And you know what? Also, I think like if women don't feel comfortable going to a workshop that is open to like the public. Yeah. Maybe they have a private workshop,
100%.
An intimate workshop in their own home, which is like a few girlfriends. Yeah. Cause like, I mean, that's something that I feel like I would be open to. Like, I know a lot of our friends, if I had hosted a BJ workshop, they would be like, sign me up.
When I had Shameless Studios I used to have a studio called Shameless Studios in Cleveland, and we had blowjob classes and all these different types of things where it's like women would come wearing lingerie, and it would just be like how to sexily walk into a room like wearing something sexy for your man.
We need to bring it back.
Things like that. You need to bring it back.
And I say this like very sincerely because I'm telling you, I have a lot of conversations with other wives and moms who are just who just have a very negative outlook and interaction and experience with their sex recently. And it's like, I don't want this for us because I want to keep Black marriages together, but if we are not having good sex, I'm afraid that it's not going to really like stand the test of time. Yeah. So, but also on that point, so when you have couples that have been together for many years, very like long-term couples, they may have frequent sex, but you know, it's the same. It's the same routine.
Same play, different night.
You know what I'm saying? What are some things that you would advise them to do or experience or look into to kind of like spice things up a little bit differently? Is it just different locations or...
Yeah. So, I mean, I also don't want to knock for if that works for people, right? If they have monotonous, that might really work for them and that's great, right? Because some people, it's just like the routine of doing it. It's like, we still feel connected. I still, you know, we both came, like they've still felt good about it. Yeah. So I don't want to knock that. But if you're looking to spice it up, changing location, more spontaneous sex definitely changes the energy, right? Different rooms, different places, in and out the house, right? Like just randomly giving a blowjob or randomly giving your partner hit. Like, yes, those things like spice it up for sure. Or like, you know, I love wearing lingerie under an outfit when we go out. You know, and then I can send you a little text or a little peek at the dinner table, like, you know, like, hey, this is waiting for you when we get out of here, you know, like, I love being able to do stuff like that. I think those things are fun, or also, but I think also just like even the spontaneity of flirting before the person gets home sets it up too, right? Just engaging over some flirty text. And Lord, people do not know how to flirt these days.
No, they don't.
I can't even tell you how many times in a therapy session I have sat with a client and we're like writing out a flirty text. And they're like, did you think that sounds good? I don't know. Like, should I send an emoji? I'm like, Lord have mercy. This is a lot of work to teach people how to flirt like that. So I'm like, but yes, like having some type of good banter that leads up to it, it builds up the anticipation. I am a girl that loves toys, and
I was gonna ask you, do you encourage toys?
I do encourage toys, and there's a lot of toys that now are Bluetooth accessible. So the women can be wearing it, and the man is controlling it. You can be controlling it on the app from your phone. So it's fun for a date night, going out, and he got full control over how it's working. Or you're actually physically like apart. You might actually be, he's at work, you're at home, or vice versa, or whatever, and you can use it, and that builds up a whole bunch of anticipation. Right, okay, by the end of the day, you're ready to rip each other's clothes off. Yeah, it's a fun time. So I do encourage people to just explore. I also really love, one of my favorite assignments to give couples is to go to the adult store together.
Okay.
To go to an adult store together and just look around, and because they have a lot of things out for display, and you can touch them, you can check the vibration, you can check the material, you can read up on it there. Almost all staff are very educated about all the toys in the store, so you can ask them questions. Like it's a great way to be able to just see like what speaks to us and what would we want to take home.
Okay. Do y'all watch Modern Family?
I have not in a while. Yeah.
Well, so what you were just talking about, it reminded me, Claire and Phil do this thing where they have these alter egos. He becomes Clyde Gatsby, and she becomes Juliana, and he always meets her at the same bar, and he comes up to her with like these terrible pickup lines, and he's trying to be sexy and suave, and she always makes jokes about his wife, and he like it's just so funny like watching them kind of go through that, because that's the way that they spice it up after having like 3 kids and being in a house. And, she's a stay-at-home mom, so she's doing all the things, and that's how they kind of like spice it up, which is so funny, because me and Dre always say, like, we could never do that, because we're just too serious. Like, or I guess we're not serious enough. Like, we would just crack up laughing. It is hilarious. But so I've seen, like, role play and stuff like that.
Role playing is so much fun. It's so much fun. And sometimes it's not as I understand what you're saying, but sometimes it's like, there might be one character in particular that you're like, no, that I might do. It only takes for you to explore a couple, or you're like, or even like a favorite movie scene, right? Or something. You're like, oh yeah, I'd play.
For sure. And to be fair, me and Trevor, we've been married 4 years. Like we haven't been married, 10, 50, 20 years. I know that the longer we're together, there's going to be the need to be like, let's reevaluate this conversation. Are we doing enough? Do we want to try more? All the things. But I do have a question about just communication when it comes to, like, let's say someone is in a relationship and maybe they're not being pleasured, but let's say like their partner fully thinks that like they're doing all the things, right? Like they think they're showing up and winning every time. And meanwhile, the other person's like, is not doing it for me, but they're afraid to say something because they don't want to hurt the person's feelings. They don't want to create insecurities. And at the end of the day, it is also uncomfortable to have to tell someone, because if you say like, hey, this isn't doing it for me, you also have to be able to communicate what would be doing it for them.
100%.
A lot of times people get into a relationship and they've been dating and they've been having sex for so long that they're like, we've been doing this for a year now. If I bring it up now, it's going to be awkward because now he's going to think every time we've done it, I haven't been satisfied, which is probably the truth. What is a easy way to navigate having that conversation? Like, is there a certain setting that makes it easier to have? Is there a pregame to set up? Like, prior, like text, like, like how should somebody go about that super uncomfortable conversation?
No, this is a great question. Can I look at the camera? Do not have this conversation right after you have sex. Let me just say that. Do not have this conversation right after you have sex, because a lot of people make the foul mistake in doing that. And now the person is like, feels completely shamed, embarrassed. Things are just going downhill immediately. So I have this in a very safe approach conversation where like intimacy may not even be on the menu tonight. We're sitting on the couch, having just a regular night, and I want to be able to talk with you as to let you know, like, and I love to have people set it up of like, hey, like I wanted to talk, like have a temperature check conversation with you about our intimacy, and I wanted to tell you about some of the things I'm really enjoying about it, but also tell you some things that like I want to explore, right? And then it opens up the dialogue to be able to say like, well, like we've been doing like this, but I don't really like it that much, or not as much as I used to. So like, I would like to try this instead, and like, I want to hear like what is working for you or something else you would want me to see. A lot of times I feel like people go into those conversations with their own agenda is to tell their partner of all of the things that they're doing wrong.
Right.
And what they want, but they're not actually open to the same feedback.
Yeah.
And you have to be ready to receive that feedback of that your partner might not be happy with the way you're doing things either, and so you have to be open to that dialogue and that, and that feedback. And so I ask people to just really be open. Talk to somebody how you would want someone to talk to you about something so intimate and private, right? And but I really like it to be in a very neutral space, comfortability of like your home or wherever you guys like hang out, and just be able to say like, I want to just talk to you about our intimacy, or I want to talk to you about last night and how that went, because I always think it's good to compliment what's working and then give feedback about things you'd like to see improved. Not that they're bad or that it was terrible or that your dick ain't big enough. Like, don't shame people, okay? No shaming. I just want to talk about how we can improve, or talk about how we can just make things, even more pleasurable for both of us.
Right.
Because it is a shared experience, shared. So I want people to really think about the language they're using.
I had a friend who was dating a guy who like he checked off all the boxes, right? But she was like, sex-wise, it's not it.
Yeah.
And so I had encouraged her. I was like, okay, you don't want to like tell him these things, right? Because again, it's uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable.
So I was like, this is what you do. Plan a sexy night.
Yeah.
And, create a space where you're like, we're going to play a game. I call it this or that. I need to coin it and make it an actual game. But it's called this or that. And basically you pick body parts and you do a this or that situation, right? And it's normally going to be the things that you would normally do, but because you have to give it this or a that is like the new thing, right?
Yeah.
So let's say it's how you eat the cat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he has to give you a this or that scenario. The this is probably going to be what he's always done that you don't like. But the that is like, oh, and then you can pick a middle ground, right?
Yeah.
You could be like, well, I liked this of this, but I liked that of that.
Yeah.
Can we combine those things?
Yeah.
And then essentially what you're doing is you're teaching somebody how you like to be touched or what feels good to you without saying, I don't like when you do this. It's just saying like, oh, I like that.
Yeah.
So then what it does is the individual going into the sex, is like, okay, I know they like this, 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 and this. So now you come in with that toolbox, you throwing out the tools, and now we're building a house, okay? Now the house is being built. But before you was playing in the sandbox and nothing was happening. And she was like, it worked so well. Like, and not only did he, do things, she was like, I also found out that like he actually prefers this instead of when I do that. Like every man doesn't want a deep throat. Maybe they like the tip.
Right.
And, some girls like fingers and objects in there. Some are like, keep that shit away from me.
Right.
So you don't know unless you try. And it's weird to like sit across the table and be like, so, but if you're in the space where you're actually trying things and then it's a we're both doing it together, it makes it a lot less awkward. So that's worked for a few people in the past.
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna take that.
The open dialogue is so important.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people just feel like, what I hear from a lot of women is he should just know. And I'm like, no,
he's not a mind reader.
He's not.
This man is not a mind reader.
Guess what? What? He should just know. He knows what worked for the last person.
Yeah.
He don't know what works for you. And that is a big, big thing that women just don't conceptualize a lot.
Yeah.
It's like, he should just know. They love sex. Yes,
Misconception.
yes, they do love sex, but they don't know your body. It is up to you to teach people about your body. But again, but a lot of women are disconnected, right? And so it's like, again, when you're connected to your own body and has done the work to explore it and knows what pleasurable and what your hard no's are, then you can teach somebody else about that, right?
So speaking of getting connected to your body, so I want to circle back to something that we touched on at the very beginning.
Oh gosh.
And it is about you directing porn. So you obviously know your body, know quality of sex, and are able to guide people on how to curate a masterpiece that will be pleasing to others. So can you First thing first, you're welcome. First thing first, tell us about your experience of directing porn. And also, if you can, within that, give the girls some gems that maybe they can take back to their partner tonight after they listen to the full episode of this and, you know, try to explore.
Yeah. So directing porn was not on my bingo card, okay? Like, it was not an accolade I thought I was ever going to have. But I have a couple of friends that run a porn company called Royal Fetish Films, and they curate Black porn. And so they had asked me to be a guest filmer, and I was terrified because, one, I was like, this is for professionals. I'm not a professional at this, right? But also I was like, this is it. Like, you got one take at this, right? Or a couple minimum, you know? And I was like, this is how they make their money. So if I don't shoot something well, it's just scrapped. And it was wasted everybody's time. And that was a lot of pressure to me, right? So when my friend King Noir asked me to film, he was like, just shoot it the way that you like to see porn shot. And I just took that and I was like, okay, I really like the symmetry of people's bodies. I want to see how the woman looks. I want to see her actually enjoying it. Because I feel like a lot of times when I watch porn, women look like they're being hurt.
Yes.
And that, to me, that's not going to get me aroused. I want to see the woman actually pleasured and feeling great. And I wanted to just see like the connection of them because the people I shot had a really good connection. So that was important to me. So, you know, like it was one camera that I had to hold. And I had to physically move in for every close-up that I did, every angle. So it was just me, one camera, the two actors, which was King Noir and a beautiful woman named Redhead Barbie. And we had lights, and that was it. And it was like so organic. And I was just... it was in the moment and present of like, I want to make this a great experience for her because it was my first time meeting her. It was his first time meeting her, which also blew me away about porn. It's like,
these people don't know each other.
You don't know each other. Yeah. You're just going to go on the camera and just do this, right? Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, like, I just want to make her feel safe and I want to make her feel seen and know that like she could trust me. And like that was important to me to just create safety for the woman immediately.
Yeah.
And then, I just wanted to be able to get all these great angles and shots that was going to make them some money, right? But also have it be something that's just going to live on forever and bring people pleasure. And I was fortunate enough to shoot them twice. I don't remember how far in between the scenes were that I shot, but it was a really interesting experience because it was interesting to me because porn is so systematic. I was like, wow, there's like a run sheet. Like it's like broken it up into like 10, 15 minute segments, you know? And when you see it all together, you're like, oh, like this clip was only 6 minutes. They only fucked for 6 minutes. And it's like, nah, it took like an hour and a half to get that 6 minutes, right? Yeah. But we broke it up into these different poses and these different positions and, you know, oral versus anal versus, you know, like, so it was really interesting to me. I walked away with a different appreciation for porn, but also some good tools are like, they are using lube on set, y'all. So don't be shaming each other about using lube because they are using it on set a lot, okay?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean,
there is a lot of lube on a porn set. So they're using lube. Everything is consented. Everything. There is a whole negotiation that's happening before the contract sign, when you get on set to just reiterate like, okay, you said that your hard nose are no anal and I don't know, no foot jobs or something, right? And you're consenting to intercourse, to hit, to fire play, right? Like you're consenting to everything. Everything's being negotiated. So that is happening before. And then that there are actual there's just regular conversation happening in between takes. Like,
well, yes, because that would be my question is like when this is going on, is this enjoyable sex and they're being pleasured and it's like that's real or is it work?
No, I mean it's both. Yeah. It's both. This is work. This is their job, but we can still get pleasure at any of our jobs that we do, right? This is still pleasurable work, and this is pleasurable work for them. They still are really enjoying themselves, but it is for a service. It is for money, right? So, so both things can be true, right? But it was just like so interesting to me that we would shoot, right? And we're shooting this very hot scene. And then it, like in between, it's like, so like, what do y'all want to eat after this? And I'm like, I don't know, guys. This is so normal, right?
This is like impeccable.
This is a very normal work day for them. And I'm like, I'm trying to digest what just happened. Okay. Like I can't even think about eating right now. Like I'm, but it was so normal. And so now when I watch porn, I'm just like, now I'm thinking about the cinematography of it. And I'm like thinking about the background, you're like breaking down their psychology, which as a therapist, when I am not in a therapist space, I really am not trying to think too much about anybody's background story,
I know.
But when I watch porn, I'm like thinking about like, oh, that was good lighting. Oh, I wonder what kind of role they're going to use for that. Like, I'm breaking that down. But it's really interesting space and how much I've learned about porn now. And I don't think I would ever shoot again. I definitely would never be on camera. But it's very interesting. And if anybody's ever gets the opportunity to go to Exotica, which is like a porn convention, they actually are going to have it here in DC in December.
Are they really?
Yeah. So I think we should plan a girls trip.
I mean,
right?
I'm down.
Right? We're doing a field trip. But you get to meet like so many porn stars and really get to see them and meet them and learn more about their story or more about other porn that they've done. And they teach workshops there too. So you're able to learn from a professional about how to give a blowjob or positions or about consent, what that looks like. It's not much different on a porn set than how it is with
in real life.
In real life. So it's really, really educational. So yeah, it was a good experience. I wouldn't do it again, but it was a great experience.
So on the same note, you did give us some juicy details that you also happen to in real life date a porn star?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so
How was
wait,
Yeah, it was an interesting experience. Again, not on my bingo card. But it was an interesting experience because one, it really helped me push my own limits and boundaries of what I'm open to. Right? Because I think for a long time I was a very jealous person. And now I have such more open awareness and actual security in myself that I didn't feel that when watching. I didn't watch a lot of I watched some of their scenes, but I wouldn't watch all of them. But I just was like, oh, they did a great job today. Like I'm really proud of the work that they did, or when I would actually see the people that he shot with, I was like, oh my gosh, like, yo, you did a great job in that scene, it felt weird at first. And I was like, did I just compliment someone having sex
with my man?
Yeah. This feels weird. But it was just like, it just became very normal, and it was just like, oh, what are you doing today? Oh, for me, I got like 5 sessions today. What are you doing? Oh, I'm shooting 2 scenes. Nothing hardcore though. Oh, okay. Well, I'll see you later. So it's very normalized, but it was normal in a good way because again, like I think if I had not had so many friends that were in porn before or my own background, I probably wouldn't have been as comfortable with it.
Right.
But it was just, there was so much communication and dialogue about what was happening all the time that's what made me more comfortable about the relationship.
That's important. I mean, I would think that has to be the case. Obviously, like if that's his profession, any woman that he's going to date, he's like, listen, I want to let you know what to expect. Yeah. And this is what it is. If you're not comfortable with it, then, like we don't have to go any further. But
but I knew that when I met him, met them because they were non-binary. So that was a whole other thing with the relationship. And so I was like, okay, I was like, this is so many layers to this dating, I had to be really open, but I knew that they were in porn when I met them. I actually met them at a porn convention. So I was like, I already knew, like, I knew what I was getting myself into, but I just still was like, well, this is going to be different. This is going to be different. Yeah. And it was more different, not with us, but it was more different in having conversations about my relationship to friends and to family because they didn't always agree with it, and subscribe to it. So that was probably more of the challenge, not for me personally, but for friends of like, oh my gosh, like how can you just go and watch a scene or how can you just allow that? I'm like, this is what I signed up for. Like, and it is what it is, but I have so much more awareness and respect for sex workers now in a different way, you know? And again, like they were good to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's what they did for work. But in our relationship, I was cared about. I was talked to all the time. I was communicated with, you know what I mean? Like I also was encouraged and praised about what I was doing, you know, like it checked all my boxes, you know, on top of having great sex in the relationship.
Right.
I want to ask you about, you know, people subscribing to it. You mentioned that your pastor is like a fan of your work and like supports you in all your things that you do. And I think that sex is a frowned upon topic in like church or when we're talking about religion at times. So how do you navigate what you do for a living and being so open in that way while also having a relationship with God and feeling good about what you're putting out there?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I feel like God chose me to be a vessel to be able to help educate and talk to people. Like this is my purpose and I'm walking in my purpose, and I am so blessed and fortunate. I have both pastors in my life that support me and what I do because they understand the need, the need in our community, in the need of our church, in the need of people needing support. Like they have both really stood beside me since early on in my career because of the work that I'm doing. And I'm very grateful. And they understand that, I mean, there is lots of sex in the Bible. If people have really ever read about it, there's a lot of sex in there, you know? And, you know, but again, somebody has to be there to teach it and talk about it. And for me, like you can be Christian, you can be sexual, you can be, you can do all the things if you love God. Like, you know, and again, I feel like this is my chosen purpose or my purpose that he's given me. And I feel more comfortable in this space than any other, you know? And I've done multiple workshops at my church on sex, on intimacy, on consent, on just relationships, you know? And I feel very fortunate that our church saw the need of our congregation and asked me to be a part of it, you know? Like that is a gift, you know? And I feel sad for people that go to churches that don't ever want to talk about sex or don't want to talk about intimacy or don't even want people to believe that you can have sex even outside of marriage, you know? And again, everybody has their own purpose with it, right? But for the most part, I'm like, people are going to be doing it. So we have to create dialogue around it. You know, it's not everybody has to have some type of dialogue around it. Because if we're not talking about it before you get married, right? Then like, how do we, you can't, because I think a lot of times the narrative is like, don't have sex till you're married. Don't have sex till you get married. Then you get married and they're like, you better be pleasing your husband. You better have sex all the time. And it's like, what?
Whoa.
Where was the middle ground?
We went from 0 to 100. There was no, we have to talk about it the whole way through, you know? So I'm very fortunate. And, you know, I lived in Miami for a long time and my pastor is a younger pastor. So she was more open to a lot of different discussions. And I recently went back and did a whole speaking engagement with our church there. And it was beautiful. And I've talked more about being a Christian and talking about sex at that church. Right. And so I feel really fortunate that our congregation is connected, that we can have those dialogues. My church in Pittsburgh, where I'm from, is more traditional and it is an older pastor. But when I was on Love and Marriage DC and I did a sex toy workshop for the couples, he talked about it at the pulpit.
You did that workshop?
I did.
We heard about this workshop.
Yeah,
Was it from Cece or
No.
Irena?
This is season 1. Yeah, season 1 I did the workshop and my pastor talked about it from the pulpit. He was like, we are so proud of Jenifer out there teaching people on TV. And I was like, my mom was texting me from church and she's like, I cannot believe the pastor's up here talking about, and you know, I mean, because on the show I'm holding dildos up, I'm encouraging them to use toys, you know, and he was proud of me. And I was just like, I don't care what other people or critics are going to say about me being a Christian and talking about sex, because I have 2 of my pastors that support me wholeheartedly in my churches, you know, and I'm like, that's beautiful.
It is.
I wish other people had that experience.
You know, I absolutely agree with you. I really love the fact that we're having this conversation because it does need to happen. And especially like if you can't have conversations and sex workshops with married couples, who are you supposed to do it with? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I personally have one last question for you, and it's back to the connection and intimacy with married couples, and we talked about how women are just saying, I don't want to have sex anymore, so you can go have a sex worker, or you can kind of have an open relationship. What are your thoughts about bringing in a third party into a relationship to kind of spice things up, having a threesome? I've heard from some women that that maybe their husband has introduced the idea of having a threesome. They're not necessarily that into it, but if it'll make him happy, then they'd be more open to it. Do you think that introducing a third party into a relationship could be beneficial, or do you see that it can also cause some harm?
Yeah, I think it's both, right? And so for people that are, anytime people want to bring a third party in, I'm always like, I prefer for people to talk about that in lengths, right? Like it's just not one or two conversations. Like it is a gradual conversation that we're having about it, of like, why do we want to do this? How will this impact us? What do we think it will add to the relationship, or what are our rules and boundaries around it, right? And like, how will we actually honor those boundaries and rules, and like those types of things. There needs to be like in-depth conversation. A lot of people have actually reached out to have just a therapy session around that, right? And so I may only see those people short term for a few sessions where we're talking about it and processing it, and then they go on and make their decision of what they're going to do, right? And I think that a lot of people go into having a threesome for the wrong intentions. Usually it's because one partner suggested it and the other person is afraid they're going to lose lose their partner, so they go along with it even though they don't want to. Everything needs to still be consensual. You have to be willing to do it because you also want to, right? And then you all talk about, what are our expectations? How are we seeking this out? Are we paying somebody, or are we finding someone randomly? Like, again, what are the rules? Are we all getting tested before this happens? Like all these different conversations have to be had, because I have found that most of the time when people have a threesome, it just puts a whole hindrance and the relationship just goes downhill.
That's what I heard,
because they didn't go in with the right intentions or enough conversations around it. Or people break the rules, where a lot of couples will go in and say, yeah, this is a one-time thing, we're not doing it. And then
it continues.
Somebody wants to continue it, and then it's like, nope, I didn't want to. I did it the first time and that's it. Or now, because we have OnlyFans, people are way more accessible.
Yeah.
So it's like, we hired a sex worker to do this threesome with us, and now I find out that you've been reaching out to her separately.
Right.
That's a problem, right? So that's why it's important to have rules and boundaries about what we're doing as far as contacting. I always suggest that, that both of you are in communication always with whoever you're involving. So that way everybody's on the same page of line of communication. Everybody knows what the expectations are. This is what we're doing. If we're sharing test results, like all of that is a conversation. So I do find that everybody has to figure out what's best for them. But a lot of times when people come in and they're like, we want to do a threesome, I'm like, we're going to talk about that, but I need to unpack some other stuff, because there's something else that led up to this.
Right.
It's not always just about like, oh, we just want to do it for the experience. Usually there is some deeper things happening that I'm trying to explore, so that we don't go into this and have for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. So you recommend that they try to work it out with just them two before bringing a third party in?
I just think that there's not even work it out, but just like have dialogue around, why do we want to do this, and what do we hope to gain from this experience, and how will we then still be connected, just the two of us, right? Because this is this fun experience that we're going to do, but how is this going to impact our other intimacy?
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah.
What is one final piece of advice you could leave us with today?
Oh gosh. Just be open. Be open to conversation, to dialogue, to learning, to being educated, to being connected with your body, to learning your body. Like, just be open in all ways, partnered or unpartnered. Pleasure is open for everybody, and achievable. You just have to be open to receiving it.
Thanks, Girl, can you tell our people how they can stay connected and get all things Jenifer Smith?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, people can follow me as Sex Therapist Jen on IG, and yeah, I mean that's the best way to reach out to me if you want to host a private workshop, you want a speaking engagement. I'm not doing sessions currently, but I'm more than happy to give referrals to other sex therapists in the area. So
yeah, girl, thank you so much. Jen. This is great, and thank you for being open and honest about your past with porn and dating someone in porn. I think that for me and Cece, as soon as you shared with us, we were like, okay, can we talk about that? It's so exciting. But yeah, we appreciate it because you did not have to share that. So we really appreciate you and your time.
No, I am an open book always. And if there's something I've been through that I can help educate and teach others about, I'm always game. Yeah. So thank you for having me.
Yes,
thank you for sharing.